Mangwanani Malelepo Vukenjani Kreklas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show, bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Bedi and Diana Master. How are you, Diana?
I'm doing well. It's good to be back.
Good to have you back. Welcome back. Last stretch, you're back in the penultimate episode of the year. This is the second last Africa Good Morning for this year. But I'm glad you're here, in the extra time.
Exactly. We end off on a great note.
There we go.
Let's get into what you can expect in today's broadcast. In Mozambique, young people divided by extension of mandatory military service. Colorado Supreme Court kicks Trump off ballot, citing insurrection, and nearly 300 fighters battle wild blaze near South African Navy base. A little later on in the show, we'll be crossing over to Zimbabwe to speak to Talent Gore as she updates us on the news making headlines that side. Stick around, we'll be right back after this short break with our top stories.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Getting into our top stories, the Mozambican parliament approved the legislative review that extends the compulsory military service from 2 to 5 years. But the measure continues to divide the opinion of young people due to the fact that military service is not professional. Speaking to Voice of America, many young people say that the 5 years would only be beneficial if there were government guarantees for those conscripted to remain in the military ranks. Sosa Vitorino, conscripted this year for mandatory military service in Chimoio, capital of Manica, was disappointed by the extension. There's a lot of time in these 5 years. The 2 years were good. Imagine being called up to serve 5 years while you already have a wife. It would be very difficult, and worse when there is no guarantee of remaining in the ranks, he says.
Getting into our next story, Colorado's Supreme Court has ruled that Donald Trump cannot run for president next year in the state, citing a constitutional insurrection clause. The court ruled 4-3 that Trump was not an eligible candidate because he had engaged in an insurrection over the U.S. Capitol riot nearly 3 years ago. Trump can still run for U.S. president in next year's election, but it could make things more difficult for him. His campaign vowed to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. Criticizing the decision, Trump's advisors said it was completely flawed. The ruling only mentions the state's primary election on the 5th of March, when Republican voters will choose their preferred candidate for president, but it could affect the general election in Colorado next November. It is the first ever use of Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution's 14th Amendment to disqualify a presidential candidate.
Now, nearly 300 firefighters and 3 helicopters are battling a wildfire that broke out on Tuesday on a mountain overlooking Simonstown, about 40 kilometers south of Cape Town in South Africa. The two host the country's main and largest naval base. The fire started on Tuesday morning and was spread by winds overnight, local media says. Only a single derelict building was damaged last night at around 8 p.m. on the grounds of the SA Navy. Cape Town's emergency service spokesperson Jermaine Carolsey was quoted as saying by IOL News website, several homes in the town's Harbour Heights neighborhood were evacuated minutes after midnight on Wednesday as a precautionary measure, Mr. Carrols told Eyewitness News site. 5 firefighters have been injured in the operation and 2 have been taken to hospital.
Now, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi won the country's presidential election with 89.6% of the vote, securing himself a new 6-year term, the National Elections Authority announced on Monday. The head of the authority, Hazem Badawi, said that turnout had reached an unprecedented 66.8% among Egypt's 67 million voters. More than 39 million voters cast their ballots for Sisi, who has been at the helm of the country for a decade. The president was pitted against 3 candidates, Hazem Omar, leader of of the Republican People's Party and second in the poll with 4.5% of the vote, Fareed Zahran, leader of a small left-wing party, and Abdel Sanad Yamama of the WAFT, a century-old but now marginal party. Sisi's victory guarantees him a third term in office starting in April and supposed to be his last under the Egyptian constitution. His election comes as no surprise in a country of 106 million people beset by multiple crises ranging from purchasing power to the war in neighboring Gaza.
And the African Development Bank will withdraw its international employees from Ethiopia following what it said was an assault on its staff members by government security forces. Two sources familiar with the decision told Reuters the AFDB lodged a formal complaint with Ethiopian authorities last month, calling the physical assault and hours-long detention of two of its employees on October 31 a very serious diplomatic incident. The two sources were not aware of a timetable for the withdrawal of the Ethiopia-based employees, nor did they provide details on how the decision might affect the AFDB's operations in Ethiopia, where, according to the bank's website, it has 8 projects worth a total of about $308 million. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. After the break, we talk to Talent Gore.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraifa. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
So, Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube, who, by the way, was voted by somebody as Finance Minister of the Year, he's been forced to stretch out the budget allocation for Parliament. Were there flaws in the first budget proposal? I do wonder. Talent Gore is here to give us the facts and more. Talent Wamkase, please give us your first story.
Mamkase Africa. So Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube has been forced to increase the budget allocation for Parliament after they threatened not to pass his 2024 budget. Apparently, members of the Parliament demanded top-of-the-range Toyota Land Cruiser vehicles, hotel stay for their spouses, huge packs, additional benefits, as well as payment of salaries for their workers. They complained about the welfare, which they said did not match their counterparts in Southern Africa Development Community region, adding that they were a laughstock in their respective constituencies. They made the demands during budget debate last week. Ncube, who caused public anger over his 2024 budget, was forced to increase the budget allocation for Parliament to please the MPs. Apparently, he said that I propose that we increase the budget for Parliament by another 225 billion Zimbabwean dollars so that it becomes 700 billion Zimbabwean dollars in response to those needs, Ncube said yesterday. There was a question specifically about vehicles. We have budgeted 132 billion at the current exchange rate, which converts to about 60,000 United States dollars per vehicle. And he also added that we have done that, but I think the main issue is that we increased the budget for Parliament to 700 billion Zimbabwean dollars.
All right, now Talent, the festive season has started off on a rather sad note with statistics from the Zimbabwe police showing that at least 20 people have died in separate road traffic accidents in just the last 4 days. Please do tell us more.
Yes, the Zimbabwe Republic Police has said that at least 9 people have died in the past 4 days. On Monday, 9 people were killed when 2 Honda-Fit vehicles collided in Mazoe. And on December 17, another fatal accident occurred along Mutare and Julius Del Road. The impact sent a DAF truck swerving, causing it to collide with a motorbike and subsequently trap the rider underneath. In this accident, 3 lives were lost. Apparently, these are just a few accidents that I have mentioned, but you find out that right now, as we speak, and per day, at least one accident occurs per day in Zimbabwe. So for the past 4 days, for at least 4 days, 9 people died, and a lot of accidents are being recorded, and we're going to be getting the statistics just soon after the festive season to see how many people have died throughout the festive season, throughout the holidays. So we'll be getting more statistics as we go on and on and on. But I'm
Truly
quite sure that
horrific. Yes, indeed. And, naturally it's hard not to anticipate that those numbers only get worse coming in the coming week. And we hope that that is not the case. Now, in the last of your stories, Talent Gore, alcohol consumption in Zimbabwe, one of the highest per capita.
yes, Zimbabwe has been ranked one of the countries with a high alcohol consumption rate per capita. This was according to a survey by Wise of Water. It states that an individual Zimbabwean consumes 62.8 liters of pure alcohol annually, and Tunisia came second with 36.6 liters consumption per capita. Wise of Water is an American global institute that does research on politics, health, climate, and economy. Zimbabwe has 62.8 liters, whilst Tunisia has 36.6 liters. Eswatini has 34.4 liters. Namibia has 32.4 liters. And Iran has 28.4 liters, the report read. Zimbabwe has the highest alcohol per capita globally. An individual Zimbabwean may consume 62.8 liters of pure alcohol when comparing the alcoholic beverage they would have taken in 12 months, with a prevalence of alcohol dependence of 2.2, the report read.
Very interesting statistics over there. Wow. Shocking. Thank you, Talent, for bringing us the news stories from Zimbabwe.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
All right, we'll now take a look at the weather predictions before we return with our economic news.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouthwatering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
Let's get into our economic news stories. Once a poster boy for Japan's dominance in electronics, known as Japan Inc., Toshiba, the company, is delisted, ending a 74-year history with Tokyo Stock Exchange. It all started in 2015 when accounting malpractices across multiple divisions came to light, with many of them involving top management. For 7 years, Toshiba had overstated its profit by $1.59 billion. In 2020, Toshiba found further accounting irregularities. There were also allegations related to corporate governance and the way in which shareholder decisions were made. An investigation in 2021 found that Toshiba had colluded with Japan's trade ministry, which saw Toshiba as a strategic asset to suppress the interests of foreign investors. At the time, experts said this made foreign investors uncertain about investing in Japanese stocks, making it not just a Toshiba problem, but an issue for Japan's entire stock market. Now, in late 2016, Toshiba said it would take charge of several $billion related to the construction of a nuclear power plant that U.S. unit Westinghouse Electric had bought a year earlier. 3 months later, Westinghouse filed for bankruptcy, leaving Toshiba facing a collapse of its nuclear business and more than $6 billion in liabilities.
Now, in our next story, shares in Pepsi India bottler Varun Beverages soared as much as 17.8% to a record high on Wednesday, a day after the company said it would buy South Africa's The Beverage Company in a deal valued at $158.73 million. Varun Beverages, one of PepsiCo's largest franchisees outside the United States, is the top gainer on Nifty FMCG index and was last trading up 11.8% at 1,310 rupees. The Nifty FMCG index rose 1.3%. The beverage company makes and distributes PepsiCo branded and own branded non-alcoholic beverages in South Africa. The analysts added that they expect the Gurugam-based company to focus on PepsiCo's portfolio and gain share from Coca-Cola and local South African brands. The deal is expected to be completed on or before July 31st, 2024, the company said in a statement on Tuesday. The stock on Wednesday posted its biggest intraday jump since June 10, 2021 and is on track for an 8th consecutive quarterly rise if trend holds.
All right, those have been our economic news stories. We're going to dive into the indicators just before we return with the sport, starting with Liverpool.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
So, over the weekend, Liverpool played Manchester United. It was a 0-0 draw, and I was worried because I knew that Liverpool would need to blow off some steam. And I was really hoping it wouldn't happen with my beloved Arsenal. Thank goodness for West Ham. Thank you, West Ham, for losing 5-1. Curtis Jones scored twice, and Liverpool booked a record 19th appearance in the League Cup semi-finals with a 5-1 thrashing of West Ham United, claiming the last of the four berths. Dominic Szoboszlai, Cody Gakpo, and talisman Mohamed Salah, who did not enter the game until it was an hour old, also scored for Jurgen Klopp's team in what unraveled into a rout in the final 20 minutes. The performance, the score sheet, the result, and the individual performances put together to make a team on the pitch a delighted club told Sky Sports. The boys enjoyed it a lot. They worked hard but enjoyed it too, with joyful football in moments. Nice to see. Now Zobozlai netted in the 28th minute with a thunderous strike from 20 yards that sailed into the far corner. Jones doubled Liverpool's lead with his first goal minutes into the second half after a give and go with Darwin Núñez sprinting into Núñez's pass to one-time his shot through keeper Alphonse Areola's legs.
Now, British members of Parliament are calling on the Premier League and other governing bodies to reduce the volume of gambling adverts in stadiums, citing a study that found nearly 7,000 visible gambling messages during 6 league matches. The Culture, Media and Sport Committee report on gambling regulation released on Thursday encourages the reduction to minimize children's exposure to gambling advertising. It concluded the government should take a more precautionary approach to advertising than what was proposed in the Gambling White Paper policy document. While gambling regulation should not overly impinge on the freedom to enjoy what is a problem-free pastime for the majority, more should be done to shield both children and people who have experienced problem gambling from what often seems like a bombardment of advertising branding at football and other sporting events, Committee Chair Caroline Dinenage said. The Go Sport MP said the government needs to go further than the proposals in the white paper published earlier this year and work with sports governing bodies on cutting the sheer volume of betting adverts people are being exposed to. A recent study found that the front of shirt gambling branding made up 7% of all gambling branding that was visible during 10 broadcast matches surveyed.
And Abu Dhabi's Yas Marina circuit, scene of last month's Formula One season ender, will be a testing ground over the coming weeks for a race car driven by software algorithms rather by any human hand. The driverless Dallara Super Formula SF23 open-wheel cars capable of hitting speeds of 300 kilometers per hour have a computer in place of the cockpit and no need for steering wheel, seat, pedals or protective halo. The cars are the stars of the Abu Dhabi Autonomous Racing League, which is set to hold its inaugural race at the Grand Prix circuit on April 28, 2024, with a prize fund of $2.25 million. 10 single-car teams will be involved in year one, but organizers accept the science is not yet there for all to race together at speed. We know that 2 driverless cars can race well on a track together. What we'll be pushing to see is, can you achieve an outcome where 3 or 4 cars are racing competitively against each other? Dr. Tom McCarthy, Executive Director of Operating Company Aspire, told Reuters. This is what happens when you keep giving children toys for Christmas, toy cars. They are just addicted. They are now grown men wanting to remote control cars on a full racing circles. It makes no sense. I'm joking. It's really interesting. I'll be interested to see how that pans out. Those will be our sports stories, highlights after the break.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
You're still with Africa. Good morning, and if you're just joining us, here are the news highlights. In Mozambique, young people divided by extension of mandatory military service. Colorado Supreme Court kicks Trump off ballot, citing insurrection. End of an era for electronics giant Toshiba. That was in our economic news.
And in sport, Liverpool beat West Ham 5-1. Yikes. Yeah. Thank you for joining Africa Good Morning. This is our penultimate episode, so don't miss tomorrow. And of course, if you've had moments that you've enjoyed over the year, let us know in our social media. But from Diana Master and Ashwin Betty, Swera Jakanaka.